Hello, welcome to Japan Seikatsu. I'm Ian, and today I would like to speak to you about the topic of if I already have JLPT N2 or 1, do I need a master's degree to get my dream job? Let's get started. As background, I got my MBA in Japan, and I've done a video on that topic that I will share in the link below. But I want to address a question that arose from that video, which was, if I have JLPT N2 or greater, is it necessary for me to go to grad school or get an MBA to get my dream job? And my short answer is absolutely not. That happened to be the path that I took, but there are many paths to success in Japan where you don't need to get a master's degree, which is wonderful news because they're time consuming and expensive. But I want to approach this question from two different angles. First is the macro view. We're going to take the 30,000 foot vantage point on this topic, and that is that the trends of our times are going to act as a tailwind for you with developing a career in Japan. And those large trends are the fact that Japan's labor force is shrinking and is projected to continue to shrink. And what that means is that there's increasing competition for talent. Now, at the same time, Japan is a country with a lot of capital and a lot of global companies that are connected to overseas businesses, overseas markets. And so there's a continual demand, and I would argue a growing demand for individuals with the correct skill sets to act as cultural bridges from Japan to outside Japan and vice versa. Now, another component of what I spoke about earlier about the shrinking labor force is the population in Japan is also shrinking, which means that a lot of the domestic markets, for example, automobiles, are declining and expected to continue to decline. And so what Japanese corporates have done in order to prepare for this is to grow their businesses outside of Japan, to find new markets, and to grow sales that way. Both of these trends are going to be in place over the next few decades, and it means that there's going to be a continual demand, as I said earlier, for individuals that can act as cultural bridges. So I would keep that in mind. I would also keep in mind that while we're currently not doing a whole lot of travel, unfortunately, the tourism boom that Japan has witnessed over the last half decade or more, I expect to fully return. Japan is a wonderful destination, and with today's social media, the whole world knows about it. When people visit Japan, they blog about it, they share it on their social media networks. So I fully anticipate that kind of increased connectivity through tourism to continue as a major trend of our time. So from the bird's eye view, the trends are in your favor if you're looking to develop a career in Japan, because many of you can help facilitate this exchange that's going to need to occur. And none of this requires that you have specifically a master's degree. So now I want to take the second part of this question and zoom in on the micro view, which is, okay, the macro view is we have this challenge that Japan is facing, and there is a solution to that challenge which you can be a part of. But at a micro level, what skill sets do you need to make yourself appeal to Japanese companies to get hired? Certainly skills are important, and one skill which is critical, and many of you I know are aspiring to teach English in Japan or are teaching English in Japan, and this is something that you can do while you're teaching English, is learn Japanese. And I would have the same advice to, if somebody was moving to the United States and they only spoke French, I would recommend that they start learning English. And it's the same with Japan. It is possible, and I've seen this, to move to Japan, to have a career in Japan, and not speak Japanese. Having said that, it's usually individuals that bring with them a tremendous amount of skills. So I've seen this happen at mid-career or later stages in a career at the very highest levels within a company, when they will recruit overseas talent to have them come to Japan to help run the business. And in that instance, the Japanese company is really looking for that skill set. It could be a deep expertise in technology or in finance, and that is much more valuable to them than the fact that the individual doesn't speak Japanese. But for many of us, when you're starting out and you're younger, you're the earlier stages of your career, you haven't had the time and the experience yet to really build up those skill sets. So the best thing that you can do is to start learning the Japanese language. And when you do that, start trying to take, if I were you, the JLPT, so that you've got a certificate that you can show what level of Japanese you speak. Now, there's other Japanese language tests and certifications as well. Any of these can accomplish this end goal. But beefing up your Japanese language skill is critical, it's important, and it's in your control. And the better you get at Japanese, the smaller the pond of competition that you're swimming in. So tip number one would be, before thinking I need to go to grad school or have to get an MBA, work on your Japanese. That's going to be, I think, the biggest return on investment. And especially today, if you're living in Japan, it's free. You're surrounded by Japanese. If you're not living in Japan, you've got YouTube, you've got online tutors. So there's great access at very low cost to the Japanese language. So that would be my first recommendation before looking at grad school, would be to improve the Japanese. So tip number two, another very important part, is you can speak fluent Japanese, and I've seen this as well, but have a very low level of cultural understanding in Japan. And that does not usually work out very well. So you want to develop your cultural understanding of Japan. What are the Japanese customs, and learn to really incorporate that to be successful in Japan. In fact, I would argue, if you had somebody that had N1 but very low cultural understanding of Japan versus somebody that had N3 on the JLPT test but extremely high level of cultural understanding, that person with the N3 would be far more successful in the long run working in Japan than the other individual. So put emphasis on both of those factors. The third point I want to make about the micro level and what type of skills are in high demand are skills like IT or tech know-how or digital marketing. Engineering is huge. So if you do have these skill sets and you do have the Japanese and the Japanese cultural understanding, I think you're very well equipped to get a job in Japan and develop a career in Japan. Those skills are going to be the oil in the machine as Japan globalizes internationally. So that's exactly what people are looking for. And a lot of these skills don't require that you go and get a graduate degree. This is stuff that you can learn by yourself, through your hobbies, through self-study, or maybe you can get a job where you are paid to pick up those skills. Again, this is another benefit I would remind all of you that are currently in English teaching in Japan, is that you're getting paid and you're in Japan and you're absorbing the Japanese language. It's a really great position to be in. So this is a long way of answering the question, do you need to get an MBA if you've already got N2 to get that dream job? And as I said in the beginning, the answer is no. Congratulations if you've gotten to the N2 level. I think that is a key level for a lot of companies that are recruiting. They'd like to see that N1 or N2. So I would head towards getting those qualifications. Having said that, I know people that had N3 or lower that also were able to get jobs in Japan. But again, it's just that early stage where you're being filtered before the interview. Sometimes it's just they just need to check a box. Does he have N2? Does she have N2? And you're going to increase your chances a lot by getting that. Now, once you get to the actual interview, oddly enough, the person interviewing you may not even know what the JLPT test is. They just want to see, can I communicate with this person? Do I feel comfortable with this person? And so that's where you can really shine, even if you don't have that N2. If you're working and studying and practicing your spoken Japanese, that is where you will shine. And I'll also add the final point that if you're looking to work outside of Japan, and you have this Japanese language skill, this cultural skill, this time spent in Japan, that's a huge benefit to getting jobs at Japanese companies that are all over the globe. I run into people working for Japanese companies outside of Japan all the time that did the JET program or taught English in Japan for a few years. And the appeal to the employer is that this person could be a good cultural fit for the company. So do please keep that in mind. So as to conclude, the master's degree or MBA is but one path to a career in Japan. There are many paths. And just to add a few points as well that I don't want to forget, you can also take the entrepreneurial path as well. I know people, an individual that was teaching English and then started a video game bar in Japan, and it was very, very successful. So I also know an individual that ended up becoming a very successful author. So there are many paths to success. What's most important is that you're following something that excites you. Well, I will leave it at that for today. Please, as always, share in the comments section your thoughts and your feedback. We are building a community here around Japan and helping people that are on their journey to building a career in Japan or connected to Japan. So as always, please be sure to like the content and subscribe so that we can get this out to as wide an audience as possible. And thank you.